I just loved a trip a couple of years ago to New Zealand, and in particular to Milford Sound. I did a number of drawings, sketches when I was out on the tourist boat there. I've looked on the internet and found various pictures there. I've done a couple of paintings. I always do a practice painting before I do any of these, just to make sure that the thing's going to have a chance of succeeding. But what we have today, and I'll come to that in a moment, is a whole lot of visual material from which I will be making my final image. Now, if I think this might be of interest by the by, as well as any watercolor techniques, just in thinking about the methods of working that I have and that you can have, which isn't necessarily just from one scene that you might be sat in front of, or one photograph that you might be working from. In this case, it's a number of different ones, and what I'm going to end up with will be some sort of composite, but we'll deal with that in just a moment. On the general way of working here, particularly if there are any people who are new, I will break the painting up into 4 different steps to make it easy for people to follow. And should you wish to watch what I'm doing on a step and then go ahead and do your own step, that is absolutely fine. But I know a lot of people now are sort of following along as I start to introduce it. This subject, I think I said last week, was going to be more simple, I felt, than the quite ambitious painting we did last week of running water in a waterfall in the Brecon Beacons. I think it's going to be more simple, but it's going to be different. And what I try and do in all of the paintings that I bring forward in these painting sessions, and will continue to do as we go on with them into later in the year, is I always like to bring some kind of little challenge in, sometimes more so than others, but some little challenge. So this challenge today is really about responding to atmosphere. I suspect that this particular session, I think, which is our 7th, I think, will probably, I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if there was more variety in your paintings than maybe we've seen in the past, because things can happen. We'll be using a lot of water and be sloshing it around, and who knows what's going to happen to the paint that we put in with that. So just to go back to the subject matter, I think everybody has seen a lot of these, but I would like to show you some images, and I've also got a couple of new ones. When I was there going along the boat, I did several quick paintings. So here in a sketchbook using watercolor, and of course you're moving all the time, so you're banging it down quickly. It was quite an overcast day on Milford Sound for us that day, and so there's another one, and there was some others. I won't show you the others, but I also selected a number of pictures from the internet. This is one which was actually, or was it a photograph I took? No, it was a photograph I took. Yes, because I was going to say it looks very much like the day when I was there, and that. So we've got that. Now, what's already coming across to me, and I was intrigued when I did my sketches, and I did my that painting. What's really intriguing me, not surprisingly for those of you ever been, it's not a fjord, it's a sound. There being a difference between the two, but are these banks, these big banks here? These were going up into clouds, And pretty much every picture, here we have these big, quite heavy, dark banks going up, and as you go through in your boat. And here's a painting that I did subsequently of it. In fact, I don't have this. Someone bought this. But again, I was interested in the darkness that comes forward to you, and then you're going into this sort of rather mysterious gap here, getting lost as you go into the sound. I'm also interested in, I don't think Lowe's put these out. I was interested in these two pictures. They're graphic art advertising Milford Sound, but in particular, I like very much the flatness that is coming across in these shapes here. Sort of flat, rather graphic sort of shapes. And I'm intrigued by this little boat here. And I have put that little boat into this painting, and I'm going to bring that little boat back into this painting, whatever I do next. And then this picture I put in because of this color. And one of the things, we spent a month in a motor caravan driving around, especially the South Island of New Zealand. And I was just staggered at the wonderful turquoise color of the inland lakes. And although I didn't see it at all on the day that I was in Milford Sound, I'm really quite interested in bringing it into my painting. I've brought it in here a little bit, but I might even push that a little bit further. So that is some of the stimulus, the visual source material that I have, and from which I'm going to begin to make my painting. The first step has already been begun with me looking at a possible composition and viewing the scene or something like that. But before I even make a mark on the paper, I've been drawing with my mind, in a sense. Now, the drawing for this is going to be quite simple. Let's just have a look at here. Look at this painting that I did earlier. So the drawing is going to be a line which is the furthest line that I can see here, at the furthest part of the sound that I can see, and then a line just below it, which will be the nearest bit of the bottom of the mountain that's there. Similarly over here, you can't see quite so much of it in this particular painting. So that line and those lines are going to be quite important to me, because I want to leave a little bit of the white paper showing along here to suggest maybe some sort of water churning up a little bit. We did an awful lot of that last week, but this is much less so. And the other bit of drawing is, I want somewhere in the composition, I want to put one of these little tourist boats that takes people around, the sort that I was taken around in, and that will be ever so slightly just in front of one of these shoulders. So I'm quite keen to get shoulders in, dark shoulders, a little white boat, get the line right, and that's pretty much all. I might make the odd suggestion of where the mountains are. That's pretty much the drawing that I'll do for the first stage. So if you're deciding to head off now and start your drawing, that's fine, but I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes getting this drawing right. And I think that the first decision I need to make is, how much space am I going to allow? Oh, well, I'm going for a landscape format. I think you don't have to, but for me, I will, because I want to get the shoulders in of the mountains. Then I need to think about, well, where is this line or these lines going to be in relation to the overall height of this painting? In fact, I think I'm going to give myself more sea to paint than I have done in this little painting here. So I'm going to, won't quite go halfway. I'll go something like, no, down here a bit further, something like that. So I'm using a soft pencil. I'll probably make a slightly harder mark than I might normally, just so that you can see it. And let's, if I'm going to, yeah, all right. So I'll come down a bit more. I'll take, I'm just going to draw a straight line. Okay. I find it very difficult to draw a straight line on Zoom. Let's try again. Because water runs flat, and somewhere along here I will have the shoulder that comes forward, and similarly somewhere along here. Now let's just put in where I might have this shoulder. I'll do something like that, I think. And so I'm thinking where I'm going to position this boat. I want to put that boat in. It's going to be against a really dark surface. So I think we'll come back in here a bit more, just ever so slightly. And that's something I'm going to try not to paint over. Leave that white. Okay, let's have some sort of a mountain going up here. This is not critical where I'm putting these, and you must decide. I'm going to, I don't know, maybe I'll have another mountain coming down there. Maybe these are going to get lost in the clouds up here, and this is where you can decide how much sun, how much cloud, how dull a day, how overcast the day it's going to be. Let's have a look. Let's just put another one there, say. There. If you've ever been in this sound, or you've been in somewhere similar, these are enormous. These are enormous big mountains. You feel quite dwarfed when you're going along in a little boat like that. So I'm thinking composition-wise, this is the furthest away that I can see at the moment. And then coming just a little bit in front of it is that, but you probably wouldn't make any difference. And then something right up close just comes down below that line ever so slightly. People always ask me, if I don't mention it, where's my eye level? And from a boat, I suppose it's here, really. I'm pretty sure it must be about there. I hadn't thought of that before I'd done any of these, but yeah. Right, so that's the first stage, the drawing that I've done. I suggest you think about your composition, where around you want your paper, what sort of proportion you'd like of sea to the sky and what's happening with the mountains. You put in as many mountains, or you play around with this however you like, but I am going for some dark shoulders going back, and then there's going to be a lot of cloud in this one, and some blue sky. But we'll deal with that when we get to the second stage, putting light colors in. Now, this next step is about putting the light colors in here. I'm going to be putting quite a lot of dark colors in later on, but the light colors. And so how I'm going to use that is to put in some of the, I want to put in some blue here, because I want some blue, rather like my sketch, to appear there. But later on, a lot of that blue is going to be covered over with cloud and mist coming down the hills and all that sort of stuff. I'm still keen, even with all the mist and the cloud and everything, I'm still keen to get some of that turquoise color, which I'm going to reflect in here and maybe a little bit in this hill, we'll see. So at this stage, I'm going to put some light colors in, very wet, let that they can merge into each other. The only thing I will try and do is leave a little gap along here. It doesn't have to be the whole way along here, especially along there, and little bits, and not paint this boat if I can help it. It doesn't matter if you go over it.
Someone's asking if you're going to use masking fluid.
No, I'm not going to use masking fluid, but of course you can do that. That is absolutely fine. And occasionally I do use it, but more often than not, I haven't got it with me. I do have it, but I'm not going to use it. But if you want to use a bit of masking fluid, by all means do so. So here we go. I'm going to use my big mop brush. This is a squirrel hair brush, which is great. It comes to a really nice point. And it holds a lot of water. And I will start off by putting some sky here. Now, this is not going to be blazing blue sky like some of the skies we've done in some of the previous paintings where we've been in Italy or wherever on a hot day. But so I think what I'll do is I will use this color, cobalt blue, which is something between the cerulean and the ultramarine French blue here. So I'm going to put that down. Now, someone's bound to ask me this, mention this. Do you ever spray your paintings? Well, I've got this water spray, and I could do it, but I'm not going to. It's a bit of an imprecise weapon, but I find it quite good if you want to keep some paint alive. So I'm going to use a lot of water in this brush here, and going into cobalt blue, I'm going to put some of that. Now, some of that will actually never be painted again, hopefully, but a lot of it's going to have paint running into it. And as long as I don't go into over these little bits, this is where using masking fluid is a great thing, because you can have more freedom to do that. But I'm going to pick up, let's just put a bit more blue here. It's okay. It's all right. It's going to be some blue there. And that was using cobalt blue, and I'm going to go for raw sienna now. Yellow ochre would be a good one here. I'm just going to put some of that there, and it's just touching in places. And if it doesn't touch and there's a bit of white paper left, well, that's fine, no worries at all. I just don't, you'll see as this goes on that an awful lot's this going to be gone over with darker colors. So I'm not too fussed about that. Just put some of this in here. You can see I'm just taking the paint down to this line, go around the boat, and let's just see it's sort of painting itself a little bit here, and we'll be coming back to that. But that will give me some blue sky. I don't know how much of that will be left by the time we finished. Now I'm going to put down, I said I wanted this sort of turquoise, this amazing blue that you get. In fact, it doesn't even show it there properly because it's greener than that. But so many of the photographs I took, none of which I've got here to show you, have the waters in the lakes and everything. Many of you will remember this as a very turquoise blue. So what I'm going to do is remember I'm putting in light colors here. I'm going to put down a sort of turquoise, but maybe just go towards the yellow on the turquoise a bit. So I'm going to use lemon yellow and cerulean. Let's just see. That could give me something that's a little bit too. It's quite strong, vibrant green. Now, do I want it as strong as that? Doesn't matter because I wonder what that's going to be like. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So with my mop brush, a lot of water on here, I'm going to take that across here and just take it up to the line and just leave a little gap, if at all possible. Just little gaps here. You don't have to do that, but then you can get rid of it later if you don't like it. So I've put my paint down here, and as I get nearer what will be the foreground here, I'm just sweeping it almost dry brush over it, leaving little white gaps there. Okay, which hopefully later on will suggest some slightly rougher water up nearer you, and it all disappears back. So that was relatively straightforward. I think I've just this is all very wet at the moment. Before we get on with the next stage, I'm going to dry it. I'll probably need to dry it with a hairdryer, and we'll be working on a dry surface. But I've taken the blue in here, just sort of covered a big blotch of it. Taken this sort of yellowy color here and brought it right down to here, and then using some sort of turquoise color where I use lemon yellow and cerulean blue, I've just put that down. This is the lightest bit of the painting that you see at the moment. It really doesn't sort of mean much until we start putting other things on it, but it will become very important later on. I haven't overfussed about these shoulders here because I know that they're going to be quite dark, although I may want some colors to show in them. So I'm going to see if I can leave some blue behind here. I'm going to bring in some of this cloud that you see there, or some of this cloud that I saw in my sketches as I was going along. And let's just have a go. So this is clear water, and I'm going to make this wet down here. Make this sort of wet. Yeah, we got a bit of something like that. I've left a little bit of this mountain, which I'm hoping we'll be able to glimpse, and come back to it. So this is going to be lots of clouds coming down. Now that's lots of water on there. Okay, so I'm not going to need to fill up my brush with lots of water here and add more to it. So I've got right. I think what I'll do is I'll get a mixture going of, say, a bit of ultramarine blue. Just see what I get here. It's going to be a sort of grey mixture, but I want to add a bit of punch to it. That's ultramarine blue. I'll put a bit of crimson, alizarin crimson with that. So it's a sort of crimsony, purpley color here, and I'll add a little bit of raw sienna to that. The raw sienna will sort of grey it down a little bit. Now let's just see. I don't know. Now that's too purpley. So let's add a bit more of this raw sienna. Do like that. Okay, I'm able to work on this because it's still wet. I don't like that color much, so I'm going to put a little bit of neutral tint in there. And let's just see what happens if I just use the edge of the brush. Bring it down here. Now, whilst this is all wet, I'm going to start playing around with it a bit. Let's get some neutral tints. It's a whole lot of strong neutral tint, and that's going to dry lighter, and let's just see what that's going to do. This is why I think all our painting is going to look so different, because there's no way I could even think of. Now, the edges are softening because the color is running. Can you see the color is running into it where the paint is, where the water is. Let's just take that down there. And now I'm going to, once it's also wet, I'm going to add some very strong color in. Let's see if we can, if I just pick up with no water at all some of this neutral tint. I'm going to put a little bit of crimson in, just why not? And it's very much going to paint itself here. And I want to grey it down a bit, so I'll pick up some raw sienna. No, oh, I don't like that. No. Okay, that will, let's get rid of that with a bit of blue. A bit of blue in here. And it's painting its way down. If I wanted to have that running down anymore, I'll just add a bit of water there, and it will paint itself. Now I've got to be careful how much water I've got in this brush. So I'll take it off and bring some of that down here. As we've got to sit back and wait and hope that the paint will sort itself out for you a little bit. So let's just bring a bit of this color down here and leave some of that white showing at the moment. Now, I said that this was an easier painting than last week's, but in a sense, it's more abstract than last week's. Who knows what's going to happen when all your colors mix together. Just remember that whilst everything's wet, you're going to get the paint working into itself, and some interesting things happen with the colors. We can come over it and change it. I've got a little bit of that still there, which is dry. So I think what I will do here is I'm going to bring in some sort of a green color here. That's still wet, so if I bring it down here, that will change it. But that's dry, and that's where I can maybe get my hard edge to that mountain. Now I'm going to use this color, Aurelian, and cadmium yellow would be another one, and I'll put some ultramarine blue into it. I don't want it to be too olivey, but I wonder what that will give me as a color. Let's add a bit more blue to it. And
can you repeat the mix of colours, please, Mike?
Yes, I used Aurelian yellow, and I brought in some French ultramarine blue to it. You can see where it's gone onto something that's dry, it's got a hard edge, and you can see it sort of blending in here and softening out, which is fine. I just wanted some sort of a hard edge there for the moment. Let's just see if that'll do. And I'm going to make this roughly. A lot of these mountains are so green, even, oh, wrong yellow. Even when I was there on an overcast day, you were very conscious of just popping. So I'm using the water that's on the paper. This is so much. I mean, these classes all started with improving your watercolor techniques, but it's all of so much is about what's going on with the water. I think, let's just see what happens. And I'm going to make that a bit of blue in there, I think. So I just got some ultramarine blue strong, put it in, and let's just see what happens. Just right. A few little bits of paper that I didn't manage to paint over there, but I'll leave that. I mean, they might work for me. Who knows? And so this is where I think maybe this demonstration is possibly a little different from some of the others, because I tended to be able to more easily put them into penny packets and just do something and then move on and so forth. But because everything's so wet and things are still drying here, we're going to get all sorts of weird things happening. Let's put in something here. It's still a bit wet. Now I'll go over to here. That's still a bit wet. So I'm going to switch. I'll go back to my ultramarine blue. And remember, I'll be mixing my ultramarine blue in with what is already there. So I'm going to put, let's a bit more, just add a bit of red to it maybe. Ultramarine blue, some crimson, just. Now this is wet and it's obviously going to start moving into the other colors because it is wet. So right, okay, this is a more simple painting, but it's also much more abstract sort of painting. And I'm going to take this up into the mist just by spreading it a bit like that. And similarly, let's just see what happens with that lot. And over here, I want to create this as something lighter than that. But at the moment, it's all very wet. And let's just pick up some very strong blue. And I'll add something like some burnt sienna here to it, which is a color that we've used, two colors we've used a lot to create shadows. And let's just take that here, again into the mountains, into the clouds. this brush, this big brush, this mop, because it goes to a good point, is great for doing really quite fine work. So I haven't moved away from this big brush. I've just taken that down to there. Right, let's, I've got these clouds which are coming down. We may go back and do something more to those. Let's just see what we're getting here. And now I'm going to turn my attention to the water and then hand over to you for a bit. So there's quite a lot been going on there, but a lot of it's about responding to what you see. I'm aware that I want to have a dark, as I showed you in this picture here, dark getting lighter and lighter as it goes away, but there's lots of cloud coming down here. There's a mark across my picture here, which is actually, I've cut the paper with the edge of my paintbrush, so that's something that I wasn't expecting. Right, so we'll deal with the water now and just leave it to paint itself as much as possible. If you've got a lot of wet water up here and paint, and you hold your paint upright, then of course the paint will drain down it, which is quite nice. I usually paint with my pictures more upright than this, but we'll see. So let's deal now with the sea. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to put a darker color on, and probably with more blue in it, so that I've gone for cerulean here. In fact, I'll add some ultramarine to it. And this is dry at the moment, so that's fine. Let's just mix up a quantity of paint using these two colors at the moment. I'm using ultramarine blue and no, that's probably too blue, so I'm going to add a little bit of lemon yellow to it. Okay, let's just see what I get out of this now. Okay, I'm still using the same brush. I'm going to take it along here. There's the sort of the white of the paper which is showing out. I don't know how much of that I'll want. And then here. And when the sea is farther away from you, then it appears much flatter. And I'll see if I can achieve that by doing some faster brush strokes. Okay, so it's sort of flatter. And as it comes forward, got these sorts of marks, which are, the water is a little more turbulent in front of you. You're seeing these sorts of marks here. And what I can also do is, whilst things are wet here, and using very, very much a dry brush, I'll just get some ultramarine blue. And so this is strong paint, and a lot of these lines will disappear with the water that's making. I'm just putting a few little marks here. All right, let's just let's keep our fingers crossed that we're going to get something exciting coming from that. So that was quite a mouthful there, everybody. And in fact, I'm going to very much wait and see what happens when it's dried and see what more I need to do to it to go into the fourth stage. But working over the very light colors, I actually started off by putting water down where I wanted the paint to mix around. I got a sort of gray color in here. Maybe I might put an even grayer color over the top of that, and some of these colors will shine through. And I allowed the colors to go into the water, to go into soft areas. I tried to leave a hard area somewhere here so that I've got an edge of a mountain. I'd quite like that to show up. And where necessary, where I thought I wanted to, I picked up some stronger color, drier color, and put it in because I knew that there was water already on the paper. That's the critical thing. That's where, to answer this question about blossoms and cauliflowers, is that if I picked up something wetter and put that on, then you would get all sorts of blossoms. But if you're bringing in if you're aware of where the water is, you're bringing in a dry color, you're using the water that's already on your paper, then you should be all right with that, and then trust it to paint itself up to a certain point. Right, now this in some ways is different from, yeah, do stop fiddling, Margaret, yeah. This is in some ways different from other ones because I think in most paintings there's almost been a clear cut stop between this third stage and the fourth stage, which the last one we're going into. But I was very conscious that when I was doing this stage, that if I'd been painting this on my own, I would have carried on a little bit longer, but I just felt that I'd done enough and I wanted to stop at this point. So I know I want to end up bringing a relatively hard edge here, as I mentioned that to you before, for the two forward shoulders of the sound closest to us, but I just want to bring a little bit more, particularly down here, murkiness in here. So what I'm going to do is kind of carry on from where I left off, just to get that, and then I'll dry it, and then go into what's the fourth stage. So I am in effect just doing a little bit more of the third stage here, but that's fine. They're blending into each other a little bit anyway. Right, so in some ways I'm going to do something along the lines that I did at the start of the third stage, and I'm going to pick up some water in my brush. I'm still with my big mop brush here, and I want, just been looking at this bit, I just want to bring a little bit more atmosphere and murkiness down here, and possibly a little bit maybe coming from down here. So let's just do it this way around. So I'm going to bring in some, yeah, I'm going to take it across here, just bring in some water. So this is just water that I'm bringing in my brush, and let's put it in here. Let's see, and I want to take it up. And I'm running my brush over the surface a little bit, just, and I can see by looking at it from down below sideways where the water is. I probably don't want quite so much white there. And I'm just going to get myself a tissue. I think I need for this. Okay, it's all about where the water is. Let's just see what happens. Okay, now that's all water, and I want to bring something darker into that. So if I go to my ultramarine blue and add a bit of burnt sienna, say, that sort of color gives me a color which often you can use as quite a good shadow color. And I'm popping that on here. I might even need to make that stronger because I've got a lot of water on my paper. Let's just see. So this is kind of the third stage, just gone back to it a little bit. I felt it was a bit too clean for, let's just. And up here, I want to make this a little bit more dramatic. So I'll put water down. I'm just picking up completely straight neutral tint there. And I'm going to put a little bit of that neutral tint. Just drop that in and see what's going to happen with that. Now, in a moment, I'll.
What the colours were, please, Mike.
Yes. Right. First of all, water. Put the water in, and then I'm playing around with adding stronger colours to them. I've also got a tissue here, which where I think I want to soften an edge. I'll use that, but I'm conscious that it's sort of painting itself a little bit here. And what I've done is I've used ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I've mixed those together and trying to keep as little water in amongst that's possible. So I've got a very strong pigment. I put that in, and then I felt that it needed to be a bit stronger. I added a bit more blue, even stronger still. I added a little bit more neutral tint, you know, and then I put water here, and I've got things running around. I just wanted for that to mix itself up a little bit there, just to see what happens, and it's sort of painting itself here, softening like mist lying in the sound a little bit. And the best bits of this painting so far have all been the accidents. There's been nothing to do with it. What's the paints achieved now? Kind of that's maybe where I should have finished in my last stage, because I'm going to dry that now and then go on a little bit. If you dry things too soon, you stop the painting itself. So I'm happy to go with drying this now, because I think there are interesting things beginning to happen. But be careful using a hairdryer too soon, and be careful using a hairdryer too powerfully, because you'll often just stop the paint doing what it does best, and that's painting, making a painting for you. But I reckon I've got things that I reckon I want to come in now with these shoulders here, here, see what I need to do with the sea, and then finish off. So this is the last stage. I'm just going to dry that a little bit. Do I want to dry it? Yeah, I think I do want to dry it. When it's dry, I'm going to get hard edges. I'm not sure I want a terribly hard edge there. So what I'll do is I'll dry it and then come in and paint just before it gets dry. So I'm going to make this darker, but this will be darker still. So let's go to ultramarine blue, and so it's all about the water. So I'm going to do a little bit drying and then bring in the paint here before it gets absolutely bone dry, so that I don't get a completely hard edge. Let's see if it's possible to do that. I've got my hairdryer fairly weak, keeping an eye on how much water is there. No, it's still a bit too wet. And I want to get a hard edge showing here to the bottom of the mountain. So if anything, I want it to be drier down here than I do up there. Right, let's see what I've got out of that. We come down, come down here. And I'll bring this down to this white area here, and maybe just leave one or two little bits showing. Now this is all a little bit too hard edged for me here, so I'll get my tissue and do that, and just take that edge into the clouds. So let's just pop this on here.
Just say what colour that is, please, Mike.
I have used ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And I've just been conscious of where I want my edges to be. I want to bring an edge down to there, so that there's a contrast between these two. Yep, as you can see that. If I'd done that whilst it was too wet, it would have just mixed in. I've also, so I tried, let's leave that. I tried leaving this wetter here than that. And when this dried for me a little bit, I just got a damp rag and just touched it in. So it just gives the impression that something may be coming down here. I'm going to do the same here. Now that's quite, but I think I'm going to use ultramarine blue, and I'm just going to make it a bit greener. So I'll bring in some, say, this yellow, which is Aurelian, just a little bit. Now, that's still wet. Let me just check it out. Can I? Yeah, that's probably going to do it. I want to take, I'll just dry this bottom bit just for a second or two. Right, now let's take this up. So this is, and this is also going to go up in the clouds. I don't want so much white showing there. I'll take that down there, and I'll bring the paint up, leaving little bits showing. It's just going up into the cloud, that one. Okay, the clouds. and then I'm going to do these two shoulders here, and finish it off. So I'm going into the details. This dark over the what was wet. It's difficult to know exactly what is a detail at this stage, but now I want this to be quite a distinct dark shoulder. At the moment, that is darker than that, and I don't want that to be the case. So I'll dry that. It's these, I'm just interested in these darkness you get right up the front, and which I got a little bit in this painting I did here a while ago, this sort of thing. And I like that because my little boat's going to stand up against that, I hope. Right, now, the colour that I'll use for that, oh, I've just lost, there we go. The colour I'll use for that is ultramarine blue, and I'm going to be using much more neutral tint here than I've used up until now to get that darkness. But I'm hoping to leave little bits showing so that it's not all just flat, very almost black. So let's just see. I don't know, I've probably got a bit too much water in that. Let's have a look.
Can you move your board slightly to the right, please?
Comme ça.
Perfect.
Yes? Okay. All right, so let's have a look at that. Where am I going to go with this? So something, take it down to here. Now, you can actually see a bit more of the bottom of this, as I think you all know what I'm talking about, the bottom of this hill, mountain, is in front of that, and that is in front of that, which is all, I think you all understand that, which has got. So I'm going to, again, I'm still going to use the same brush for all of this. All right, that goes off here. Let's just yeah, let's just see if that's good enough. And then I'm going to move over here. That still needs to be dried a bit. You can touch your painting and get an idea if it's still damp. And I'm going to probably make this even blacker. So this one, flatter and blacker. So in fact, I'd do well if I had Payne's grey here. So let's just see what we can get out of this. Same sort of thing. I'm painting down to the line of the water. I don't know whether I'm going to have any, I'm not going to have much of white water showing here, I think. I'm not sure I want it. I quite like the white water down in the distance more. All right, here we go. Let's go around the boat before it gets completely lost. And so this brush is really served me quite well in this painting. It's done big areas as I'm doing here. It's done detailed areas. I normally have switched to a smaller brush by now, but I've kept the same brush all the way through. So let's just see. Now, I think this needs to be a bit straighter here. And just picking up pure neutral tint, putting that down in there. Okay, and I will go to a smaller brush now. Where's it gone? A little rigger here, and we. No, I won't do that just yet. I'm just going to make a decision about this C. I wonder whether I can make maybe that's a little bluer. So one moment, I'm going to change my water, which is really sludgy now. Okay, this is apropos of the various conversations we had before. I don't need to dry anything just yet. Let's just see how this goes. I'm going to pick up some cerulean and add a bit of ultramarine blue. Let's sort of darken it down a bit. Now, it's too dark. Let's just see. Add a bit of water to it. Now, let's see what happens with that. I can get rid of it if I don't like it. So I'm just putting something a bit flatter in the distance down here. Let's just have a look. All right. And do I want to do anything here? I'll just add a bit of something darker to that, and let's just see. Do I want to? 2 marks. Got a feeling I don't need to do too much here. Let's see if that. Is that too much? Yeah. Okay, and now the last little bit I'll do is the boats and see where we go. I'll dry this. And I can switch brushes and paint the bottom of the boat pretty dark. So I'm just picking up whatever I've got here, adding a bit of neutral tint, and just now this is, we can just see it below the line of, oops, can I have that? Didn't want that there. This. I'll make that a bit darker with some neutral tint. You won't see anything, any waves or anything like that with it at that distance. And do I want to put any I mean, those of you who use masking tape, at some point you will have taken that up. I'm not quite sure where. You could take it up now if you wanted to. But the problem with masking fluid is that if you take it up too late, I mean, if we'd left it on and took it up now, you could end up with too big a area of white. I mean, I quite like these little bits here. And this bigger bit here. So I've been trying to juggle them as I go along. But if you started off by putting this masking fluid down, sometimes it doesn't give you that sort of flexibility at the end. Let's just lose him a little bit here.